Can you walk us through, so the process start to finish? So you got a property, as Garret described. Maybe it's land, maybe it's often land, but not always, right? Maybe it's a business, maybe it's a multifamily building, although that's the most stable asset class. And so somebody is having trouble paying. There's some negotiations with their lender for a time. Maybe communication starts to falter, and the lender goes, you know what? We got to take over here. We have no options. We got to get involved. So what happens then? Like, and from everybody's perspective, like the lender files something to the court, it becomes their, you go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I'll focus on the receivership because that's my area of practice. So basically, once a lender hits that point, they'll work with their counsel. They'll issue it's called a NITES, Notice of Intention to Enforce Security. That point, it triggers a 10-day period. So the borrower has 10 days to produce a bag of cash. I'll call it. That's the term I like. If they show up and pay out the lender in full in that 10 days, that's great. Everybody walks away happy.
Is this a scenario where a purchaser is getting served? You know where people get served?
Sorry, a purchaser or a borrower?
A borrower, sorry. And they go, hey, Jeff, can I cut in line at TD? And you go, hey, my name is Jeff. And they go, boom, you owe me 20 mil.
I don't know the mechanism. I know they have to get personal service. So it's very probable.
So that's why, because I've heard of this where people are literally hiding. They're like, you can't find, and it's tough because the lender will look into it and they're like, God damn, he doesn't know his house. So like, I can't find this guy.
His car.
Okay. So they have 10 days after being served. Right. To produce.
Exactly. And after that 10th day, the lender is kind of free to bring an application to the courts to appoint a receiver or appoint a private receiver. And the difference being, so there's a private receivership. So most mortgage agreements will allow or provide for a mortgagee to appoint a receiver. And I'll just say it's kind of up to them what process they want to pursue. So we can take an appointment as a private receiver, but you don't get all of the benefits of that court order, right? So in terms of protection against improvident sale and environmental liabilities and other risks, there's a lot more exposure for us to take something on as a private receiver. It's a lot cleaner for a number of reasons to go the court appointed route. However, cost is always a factor there. Assuming they want to proceed with a court appointment, they have to bring an application, on notice to all stakeholders. The court will then set a date. They'll hear the application to appoint us or a receiver and make a determination. And if they sign that order, then immediately upon, that order being issued, we take possession and control the property and deal with the issues that may be, right? So if it's vacant land, that's one thing. If it's a tenanted, multifamily property, that's another set of issues. We've been in situations where it's half-built structures, basically just foundations and some wood framing with no water on the property. So the fire department issues all kinds of crazy notices, and we have to act quickly to deal with those. But it's a whole range of issues that we encounter.
So assuming it's a like IPP and investment property, there's tenants there. Somebody's being paid, bills have to be paid. So when you take over, are you issuing then a notice to the tenants? Hey, we've taken control. Do you then have to pay the bills as well? Or
Absolutely. Yeah. What we do is we get a court ordered charge against the property, which allows us to borrow funds to pay or maintain the property and pay the ongoing expenses. Right. So we build that into the order as we, during the application process, and make sure that we have sufficient funds to maintain the property, pay insurance, pay utilities, deal with any ongoing issues, whatever is required.
Okay. So you get the court order, you're paying, and typically so you're not exactly representing the lender, you're representing all stakeholders to get the maximum price. So at this stage, are you running the process, or more often are you doing a broker selection process, or how does that work?
Great question. So in terms of the sale, we have the ability to sell it as, I'll say see fit, subject obviously the court's oversight. So we have sold a lot of properties through, I'll call it a private sale. I mean, we've been in this business a long time. We know a lot of the players, whether it's the brokers, developers, investors, and we have our own Rolodex, I'll call it. So we have gone through private sale processes quite successfully in some cases. But I will note that most of those were several years back, right? Before the market dynamics shifted the way they have.
Right.
I'm quite hesitant to do that in this market for obvious reasons. So generally now what we'll do is we'll just go to the brokerage community, obtain proposals, evaluate those in consultation with maybe the secured lender, and retain a broker to list it.
Right. And so the challenge, what you're saying is a few years ago, you could go private because you're less concerned about satisfying the lender and maybe the equity. Like maybe somebody just screwed up, but you're pretty much going to be made whole.
So one example, we had a property at Avenue Road and Lawrence, call it.
Yeah.
Great neighborhood. It was a great site. And we knew, we had some preliminary discussions with some contacts of ours who said, the values in this site, especially relative to the mortgage debt, you shouldn't have an issue. And that was, years back when you could bring anything to market and you'd have multiple offers and competing, offers. And it was just a much different time. So we brought it to market privately, ended up selling for $20 million in excess of the mortgage debt. And it was just a great success story, right? On the flip side, we did that same kind of process, I'll say maybe 3 years ago now, right when the market was really kind of starting to experience the turmoil it's in now. And we had, I think, maybe one bid in that first process that we had commenced. I'll call it 20 cents on the dollar of the first mortgage debt, right? So we couldn't work with that, obviously. We then subsequently listed the property twice with two separate commercial brokers, and they had no results. So that's an interesting story. It's the first time in my career, at least, and one of my partners has been in this business a lot longer than I have. It's the first for him as well. We listed the property 3 separate times in 3 different manners. No bid was obtained that was remotely acceptable. And we actually returned to court at the lender's request to just ask for our discharge because they said, look, we're going to give it back to the borrower in this case. He's come to us with a proposal and he'll fund an interest reserve. We just got to stop this because this property clearly isn't moving in this market, right? That's the most extreme example I think I've seen where, we just can't move a property.